What you gonna do now, Tariq?
Power Ghost fans, we are back to cover the final two episodes of the final season of Power Ghost. Before I start, make sure you like and subscribe. I have a little bit over 8,000 followers or subscribers. I'm on the road to 10K, hoping to get to that by the end of the year. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe. But enough of that. Let's get right into this episode. A lot happened. I'm not sure all of it was good, but we're going to discuss it. And before I get into the big thing, Monet dying, and of course, we want to talk about that and the ramification for the last episode. As Monet was laying there dying, surrounded by her children, loving, tragic scene, I couldn't help but feel one thing. And I want to go into that for the next couple of minutes before I go into the episode. And the question I had was, did the Tejadas ruin book two? And when I say ruin book two, I'm talking about all four seasons we've gotten. And I started to think that the Tejadas have been more of a focus than Tariq's own family. And I think unwittingly, it's really turned this entire book into almost like Empire to me. And I really don't like to say that, but just looking at these characters, they've had good moments. They've had moments that made us laugh and everything. But overall, the characters to me were not dynamic enough to have this much screen time over the last four seasons. And I think that it's really crashed and burned for this last season. It's kind of gone where none of us has expected it to go. And I think because the Tejadas themselves are pretty one-dimensional characters for the most part, they're not really dynamic enough because from what we've seen of them, they've pretty much always ended up in the same spot. We've had the same kind of storylines with them. Drew and Kane bickering. Monet 1 minute loving her kids, next minute wanting to kill them. Diana being at odds with Monet. When Lorenzo was around, them being at odds. So we've pretty much had the same storylines rolling over and over and over again with them. So on one hand, when Monet died, I was kind of like, finally, it's taken so long to get to this point. And I think the big issue was this was really something they should have done at the end of season three. I don't know why they weren't willing to go full steam ahead with that because Tasha killing Monet would have opened up so many different storylines with the Tejadas going after Tasha, and then as a result, going after Tariq, having that dynamic going on, and then Noma still being in the background. That to me would have been a lot more interesting than what we got. So I'm not sure why they didn't go full steam ahead with that. I think it was really a big miss having Monet survive and pretty much end up dead anyway, in this particular situation. As far as how it went down, seeing Monet with Hail Mary in the background, basically having her Scarface moment, taking out nearly all of Noma's army in what 6-inch boots, toting twin Glocks. Hard for me to take seriously. I kind of knew where this was going. I think all of you did. Earlier on when she first came to the rehearsal dinner, when she had her Mary J. Share My World fit on, and then she told Kane that, I never told you this, but you've always been a good son. When I heard that, I was like, all right, Monet is probably not going to make it, to the end of this episode. So, seeing her and Kane have that little close moment then, and then Kane being helpless, especially somebody like him that's been the one that's, been the enforcer of the family, not having any control over his mother's own safety. And that's going to have him crashing out in the next episode. So we're going to see where that goes. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the one that takes out Noma, but we shall see because we've already got a few twists and turns so far. But as far as excuse me, Monet's death overall, it didn't really hit me like I saw online with some people feeling so sad and hurt by Monet dying. I didn't feel any of that. I felt like this was a long time coming. Like I said before, I really think they should have taken Monet out at the end of season three. But as far as people who have been getting away with a lot of dirt, Monet is pretty much at the top of the food chain. I think since she's been on the show, she's probably taken out close to about like what, 50 people? Somewhere in between 35 and 50. Mecca, Lorenzo, poor old beautiful Carrie Milgram, remember her? Took her out. various unnamed drug dealers who went at her. Her side lover, Ramirez, who used to be a cop, took him out too. So she's had a lot of bodies so far. So this was pretty much her comeuppance to me. She's had a lot of plot armor, like a lot of characters on the show have had. So I didn't really feel too much about Monet dying. I feel like the Tejadas themselves, we really needed a lot of them out the picture to kind of get Tariq back to the center stage. To me, he's been, kind of a side character in his own show because you've had so many Tejadas that have needed screen time. So we're really at the last episode, so none of that really matters at this point. There's not much that we can do. But as I said earlier, I think it was a big miss having the Tejadas have so much of a focus on this entire book. And really, like I said, to me, they've kind of turned the show into Empire. Uh, Besides that, the Tejada kids, what are they going to do for revenge? You already saw in the preview that there's going to be some initial bickering, which is funny, Kane bickering at Drew and Diana. You married the woman that killed your mama. You really should be mad at yourself. Did you really think you're going to marry Noma, the one that took your mom out of the drug business, and this wasn't going to go sideways? So really you should be mad at himself, which I think he'll eventually be when he kind of analyzes how it got to this point. You picked somebody over your family, and this is the end result. So now the kids are going to go full steam ahead. I'm pretty sure they're going to regroup with Tariq eventually after he gets done with his whole Carter situation and try and figure out another counterattack to Noma. But the question is, how do they get to Noma, right? She has her brother, Chinedu, who's with her now. She's going to be very insulated because she knows what's coming. It seems like they're going to be attacking her compound somewhere, and it's going to be an all-out war at her mansion. I think it's even bigger than the one that we saw the wedding take place at. So in that regard, to me, I think the key there is going to be actually Noma's daughter, Anya. We see Anya's not really happy with her mother. And I think Tariq is going to reveal to her that Noma was the one behind her father getting killed. And I think once that happens, I think all her loyalty to her mother is going to be gone. And she's going to give the information to the Tejadas and Tariq that they need to get a little bit of an upper hand. How much of an upper hand, I'm not sure. I'm also not sure that Anya is going to actually make it. I don't think Noma will go as far as to kill her own daughter, but we see Tariq running with her, and explosions in the background. I think she's going to be front and center, whether that's opening a door or taking Tariq and them to Noma's bunker, wherever she's hiding out at, because Noma's going to be hitting the mattresses at this point. So when that happens, I can see Anya getting caught in a crossfire somewhere because we did see Noma like screaming in pain in that preview. So the only thing to me that can make her feel that type of hurt would be her daughter getting killed. I really don't see her even having that type of anguish if her brother got killed. So I think Anya is the only one. That's the only reason I think she might not make it in the next episode. As far as the Tejadas themselves who might not make it, I think Diana is safe, because she's the one that's kind of in the wilderness trying to find the focus, since losing her baby, not wanting to be in the streets, but not really being able to focus on her studies. So I think this whole situation will be what grounds her and gets her completely out of the game. So I think she's safe. I think Drew is the most expendable because I think they need Kane to kind of go on the rampage, get some bodies, have that final confrontation with his wife, quote unquote, Noma. So I think he's safe until they have that confrontation. He could still potentially die while killing Noma, and that can give him, that somber moment with Effie. But I think he is mostly safe. I think Drew is the one most likely to get killed, because he's the one torn between trying to find his own identity, feeling comfortable with Carter, even though that wasn't fully developed. But I just have a hunch that Drew is going to be out of here. Uh, Anyone else? I think Tariq is safe because even though this is the last season, they've been setting record numbers. Despite the writing being all over the place, the numbers don't lie. The ratings have been through the roof. I think the last episode was a record number for stars. So even if Michael Rainey is done playing Tariq for now, I do think they want to leave that door open because you never know when he wants to come back. Power have never really explored doing movies. I think that might be a good way to kind of keep the universe going. We've seen shows like Deadwood and the like come back years later and do a 2 hour movie, things like that. I think that would be a great idea for this show, because it's still going to have a loyal fan base. So I think they can always kind of revisit if they leave the door open, maybe have him get locked up or having to start over with nothing left and, no allies, no nothing. I think that can be a good way to kind of keep the character alive in case they want to revisit in a few years. But I think Tariq is safe. I do think that he's not going to end up on top, but I'd be surprised if they killed him. Um, I said Brayden was my number one person that I thought would get killed this past episode. So he ended up making it and ended up, making an impact, taking out Carter when he was riding away with Tariq. As far as him being safe again, I still would put him as a maybe because we see him, Carter sometimes somehow gets a hand on the gun, but Brayden stops him again and puts a gun behind his head. So I think Brayden probably makes it, but I'd rather him go too. He's another person that really doesn't have any storylines at this point, with his family out of the picture and all that. So we'll leave that there. I say Brayden probably makes it. Now let's go to Carter. So Carter, I like Carter being so cool under pressure. He's in confessional, waiting to give his confession. Out comes Tariq out of nowhere with a gun on him. Carter's not flustered at all. He kind of chuckles a little bit. And why is he so cool under pressure? Because he knows he has that big ace in his hole. He has footage of Brayden and Tariq killing Zion. And there's no way as of now they can get a hold of it. So that pretty much that's his plot armor right there. It's funny enough that Tariq wouldn't automatically just kill him. Certain people have plot armor that, the Russians, when they had to drop on Monet, certain people just have to live for certain storylines. So that leads us to how is Carter going to get undone? How is he not going to end up on top in this last episode? We got the key in the preview. The preview did say that you have to get some dirt on him. So what is the dirt? The dirt is obviously him killing Councilman Tate's brother. So how does that get in Tariq's hands? That is the big question. Remember, I think Effie is the key on this front because it seems like Effie can hack into police systems and phones, at will. So if she can somehow get a hand on that footage, that can be dangled over Carter's head. That's one way he can actually end up staying alive because they may end up doing a stalemate where Tariq tells you, look, as long as you don't drop your footage, I won't drop my footage. You stay out of my way, I stay out of your way. And they can have kind of this stalemate truce. But I don't think Power would leave things open-ended like that. We may get something like that for about 10 minutes of the show. And then, Carter's going to flip out because he doesn't want, Tariq having that power over him. And that's a good way to bring Councilman Tate back into the fold for the last episode because, of course, he's going to want revenge for his brother. So he might be the one that actually takes out Carter for all we know. This is where Davis can play a hand too, because as far as trying to get that dirt, if Davis does some snooping around, maybe he gets to Nico and gets Nico to flip. So that's a potential angle there. I think that's really the only angle they have to take down Carter because that's the only dirt that he has, that we know of, that can get him in some serious trouble. So we'll keep that in mind. As far as the key people, I want to touch on that real briefly. Effie and Davis, both of them are the ones that will tip the scales, one way or the other. I think Effie is safe. There's no way she's going to go with Noma now. So she's going to be firmly in Kane's corner. She's going to be the one that can hack into the systems and all that. So Tariq, the Tejadas, they have a real ace up their sleeve with Effie's quote unquote robot skills, as Kane would say. Now, Davis is a little bit more slippery. As of now, we think he's with Tariq. He also caught a body for Tariq's benefit, taking out Noma's bodyguard. But to me, it is tenuous. Remember, he was with Noma the night before she got married, and his brain is a little clouded after all this drama that goes on and seeing Monet getting killed. He might think that he's better off on Noma's side. So we'll see what he does in this last episode. His loyalties could shift a little bit when depending on how this war ends up going. So keep an eye on Davis, and with shifting loyalties, that might also put him on the chopping block to die as well. So I wouldn't rule out Davis not making it to the end of the series as well. It's another person to keep an eye on. As far as funny moments or best moments from this episode, I think undoubtedly most of us will agree the rehearsal dinner was the funniest thing. It seemed like the actors really got a kick out of that. Everybody got their one-liners in. It was completely over the top, but we just all rolled with it. Really almost kind of reality TV type of banter, the way that they were going back and forth. But I got a kick out of that. That was a funny early moment at the beginning of the episode. The strip club, seeing Drew completely uncomfortable, we know obviously why that wouldn't be his scene. Diana joked about it. I thought that was a funny moment. Um, Brayden getting high on the mission, to take out the priests and the guards and everything, just couldn't help playing with his nose. So that was another funny moment. What I disliked was, as I mentioned earlier, just the plot armor that everyone has. If the Russians were really trying to take out Monet, there wouldn't be no discussion. Once they have the guns on her, they would have shot her up immediately. And if Tariq was really as serious as he says about we need to take Carter out, it wouldn't have been no discussion when he got the drop on him at the church. He would have shot him immediately. So just little plot armor things like that, where everybody has to have a discussion once they get their gun on someone. Once you see that happening, you know that they're not going to die. So I really wish that they wouldn't keep telegraphing scenes like that. Also with Kane, when Noma had the gun on him, and they got to have this big discussion, and Noma has to reveal her big, villainous plot right there about Kane's mom. Could have been shot him, when she realized that he's not going to be loyal. So those plot armor moments had enough of that. As far as other predictions, I think the big one we need to discuss to close would be this whole idea of there being a potential another spinoff. I've heard that rumor that the reason why Effie's mother was introduced is because there's going to be a California spinoff with Effie and Kane. And no, not only do I think that's a terrible idea for a spinoff, I really don't think it's going to happen. There's been like no rumors of that whatsoever. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a super big insider when it comes to things like that, but I haven't heard a peep about anything. The one spinoff that we know that's confirmed is the one dealing with a young Tommy and a young Ghost. That's, in development, actually. So I would be completely shocked if once we get the end credits, we're getting a Cali spinoff with Effie and Kane. I just be I can't see that, and I really wouldn't be that interested in that either. Um, as far as the other spinoff, those of you who have been watching these reviews, the big one that I kind of wanted was Councilman Tate, and they canceled that one early, the Power Influence show. And I'll touch on one other thing, to go back to the beginning of this review earlier when I talked about Tariq kind of becoming a side character and the Tejadas ruining the show, by having so much of a focus. Another thing was really when I started thinking about the early storylines that we got. Remember RSJ, the black billionaire, one of the richest black man in America. He's talking with Tariq. He's giving Tariq pointers. Think about where the show could have went if they really developed and kept that going on. I wasn't, somebody that was super big on the whole Weston Holding storyline, but compared to what we got, I really kind of wish we would have went down that timeline, because that is how Tariq would have built power, insulated himself, and really become the kingpin that they want us to believe that he is. Just seeing how he's moved these last couple seasons, he's nowhere near his father, nowhere near Ghost. And that was even punctuated even further, when they had the scene where he had the tantrum and he's pushing things over, saying, I'm Tariq St. Patrick, they can't do this to me. You know, no shade to Michael Rainey. Love him, great actor and all that, but that scene right there did him no favors. He looked ridiculous, trying to have that anger that we see normally with Ghosts. And that kind of just drove home the fact that his story just kind of went off the rails. When this whole series started, the whole idea of, is he going to make the same mistakes as his father? Is he going to make the same mistakes with his family? Is him going in the game going to destroy his family even further? All these storylines that we thought we were going to get after the first season of Power, all that just kind of, book two, all that just went away. We just got the Tejada show, and I think that was a real detriment to Tariq overall as a character. So It is what it is. We got one more episode left. We've made it this far. We know we're going to watch it. And we know we're going to hopefully be entertained. And we know it's going to be ridiculous and probably make no narrative sense. But here we are. As far as rating this episode, from a writing standpoint, probably like a D, D plus. A lot of things just really did not make any sense. Entertainment wise, I still put it in the B range. I was definitely entertained. It was really over the top. And if we're going to keep being over the top, we might as well end on a bang with the next episode. So we'll see how they attempt to wrap this up. As far as I know, it's only 60 minutes. I think they need at least about 85 minutes or something like that, or at least 15 more minutes, 75-minute episode, but doesn't seem like we're going to get that. So we'll see how they wrap all this up. We'll see, if Tasha shows back up, Tommy, any other characters. It seems a 0% possibility that Omari Hardrick will come back and, have that big confrontation with his son, either, in the spiritual world, which I thought this show needed to have a proper conclusion. I think at this point, just we'll see what we get. But thank you for tuning in. I'll be back next week to cover the finale of book two. Also, to let you know, I normally have these recaps posted around the 1 o'clock a.m. hour after these shows air. But the last two episodes, I was not able to do that because they did not make these episodes available to critics. And they're doing the same thing with the finale. They're not giving it to anybody early. So we're all going to be watching it at the same time. So I'll try to have my recap up. Sometime during the day, just not sure when. But thank you guys again for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you next week.